We haven't, thank you. We need you. Yeah.
Wheels.
Just don't play that. Just happen.
Ready?
I hope so.
We've all got wheels to take ourselves away. We got the telephone to say what we can say. We've all got higher and higher every day. Come on, wheels, take this forward. We're not afraid to ride. We're not afraid to die. So come on, wheels, take me home today. Come on, wheels, take this boy away. Now when I feel my time is almost up and destiny is in my right hand, I'll turn to Him who made my faith so strong. Come on, wheels, take this boy man. You're not afraid to ride. We're not afraid to die. So come on, wheels, take me home today. Come on, wheels, take this boy away. not afraid to rise. We're not afraid to die. So come on, we'll take this home today. Come on, we'll take this boy away. Come on, we'll take this boy away. Hey, hey.
Good morning, everybody. You can even sing along on this one, you'll know it.
Janie will tell a banjo joke.
No, I will not.
He's a real nowhere man, sitting in his nowhere land, making all his nowhere plans for nobody. Doesn't have a point of view, knows not where he's going to. Isn't he a bit like you and me? Nowhere man, please listen. You don't know what you're missing. Nowhere man, the world is at your command. He's as blind as he can be, just sees what he wants to see. Nowhere man, can you see me at all? Nowhere man, don't worry, take your time. Don't hurry, leave it all till somebody else lends you a hand. Doesn't have a point of view, knows not where he's going to. Isn't he a bit like you and me? Nowhere man, please listen. You don't know what you're missing. Nowhere man, the world is at your command. He's a real nowhere man, sitting in his nowhere land, making all his nowhere plans for nobody. Making all his nowhere plans for nobody. Making all his nowhere plans for nobody.
Good morning. Welcome to the Community Church of Chapel Hill, Unitarian Universalist. My name is Eric Conrad. I'm a member of the Worship Associates Ministry here at the church. I especially want to welcome any guests or newcomers to the church and call your attention to an announcement on the back of the order of service entitled, Welcome Guests and Newcomers. I'd also like to welcome those of you attending online. Lyrics to hymns and all elements of the service may be found on the screen, and a complete order of service, including this week's announcement, is available via the link in the Sunday morning email and on the church website. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrive at this beloved place, you are welcome here. We have an in-person Sunday social, which is held immediately following the service. And please turn off or silence any cell phones during our service to maintain a worshipful experience. And now Bonnie Nelson has a Within These Walls announcement.
Good morning. Hi, I am Bonnie Crotty Nelson, Chair of the Stewardship Ministry and this year's annual Pledge Drive. It kicks off already. The 2024-2025 annual Pledge Drive starts February 1st, this week. Our theme for the year is Connections. There are so many ways to connect within our church. Connecting for the local community, to make the world a better place and to build our skills and practices for good. Connecting member to member, and connecting to keep our church community strong, for spiritual sharing, and for fun and fellowship, which hopefully all of you have participated in some of those. Over the next 4 weeks, you'll hear testimonials from congregants on the importance of their connections to the church. The annual Pledge Drive will conclude with our annual day of service on March 2nd. Okay, everybody, right now, March 2nd, right? More information is forthcoming, and in fact, late breaking news, you're going to hear it right after this announcement. I can think of no better way to showcase our connections to the community than participating in the day of service. Along with the testimonials, the Board of Trustees and I will be tabling every Sunday in February. We'll answer questions about the annual Pledge Drive and the budget process. All of the pledging information will be on the church's website. It's actually there now, and we'll have handouts at the table. You're able to pledge online, or you can complete a paper pledge form and drop it off at the table. The goal for the annual Pledge Drive is to fully fund our church's operating budget. Making a pledge early allows the staff to craft a budget that supports the amazing programming, which builds connections, equitably pay our wonderful staff who create the amazing programming, and maintain and improve our church buildings where these connections happen for us all. Please pledge generously to support the church. By sharing our time, talent, treasure, and trust, I believe that we will build even stronger connections with each other, the church, and with the community. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm honored to work with the Board of Trustees and with you to make this year's annual Pledge Drive a success. Thank you. And then we should have a special. Yep. Here we come.
There they come.
Here they come.
Uh-oh.
Agents Hitchcock, King, we need an update on the day of service. Mission possible.
We have learned that the 2024 Day of Service will take place on March 2nd, here at the Community Church. An inclement weather day is set for March 9th.
What's the day's purpose, Agent King?
It's a chance for all members to gather and live our church's mission by volunteering our loving hearts and our helping hands within our community, kids and adults.
Agent Hitchcock, what did you find out?
These special missions will happen both here at the church and at other locations around Chapel Hill. All volunteer agents are invited for a Mission Possible breakfast before work begins, and again to debrief afterwards at a potluck lunch.
What do we know about the volunteer projects?
Well, that's highly classified information at this time. All the church ministries are working hard to get their project submissions in by February 2nd. Don't miss the deadline. Project signups start in early February.
Are there any other updates to report, agents?
Volunteer agents will also be asked to respond about whether or not they'll attend the day's meals and what they'll bring to the potluck lunch. So stay tuned for future agent communications.
Thanks for the updates, agents. We look forward to working hard to pull off this mission, possible Day of Service 2024 on March the 2nd.
Yes, ma'am.
The opening hymn is number 128. Please stand as you're willing and able. Our invitation to worship begins with a short paragraph from a sermon of a prominent Unitarian Universalist minister who said, "I have a friend who has given up alcohol, cigarettes, coffee, eggs, meat, dairy, and the sun. He eats oat bran every day for breakfast, takes megadoses of vitamins C and E, rides his exercycle religiously, and never uses his microwave oven. There is no guarantee he will live any longer than his least prudent neighbor, but as his doctor told him, it will certainly seem longer." Our service this morning is about guarantees and certainties. Well, actually, it's about a lack of those. What are we able to control, and what is very, very much out of our control? We seem to live in a time of tremendous insecurity, economic insecurity, ecological insecurity, political insecurity, geopolitical insecurity, and all of this on top of the uncertainties of our day-to-day life. How should we face life amidst these unknowns? How do we have faith without certainty? Come, let us explore together. The words for the chalice lighting are found in your order of service. Please join with me in reading them. As we weather the winds of change, may we have wisdom to cherish moments of silence. As we recollect times of challenge and pain, may we all remember also the graceful blessings of our lives. As we look to future unknowns, may we have the boldness to trust that there is unimagined good yet to come. We now have a musical presentation.
Let me ride on the wall of death one more time. Let me ride on the wall of death one more time. You can waste your time on the other rides, but this is the nearest to being alive. Let me take my chances on the wall of death. You can go with the crazy people in the crooked house. You can fly away on a rocket or spin in the mountains. The tunnel of love might amuse you, Noah's Ark might confuse you, but let me take my chances on the wall of death. On the wall of death, oh, the world is far from me. On the wall of death is the nearest to being free. You are going nowhere when you ride on the carousel. And maybe you're strong, but what's the use of ringing a bell? The switchback will make you crazy. Beware of the bearded lady. Oh, let me take my chances on the wall of death. On the wall of death, oh, the world is far from me. On the wall of death, it's the nearest to being free. Let me ride on the wall of death one more time. Let me ride on the wall of death one more time. Waste your time on the other rides, but this is the nearest to being alive. Oh, let me take my chances on the wall. Let me take my chances on the wall. Let me take my chances on the wall of death.
Thank you, Glenn. Each week in our service, we hold a time for sharing the joys as well as the sorrows that we bring with us into this community. If you've come this morning with either a significant personal joy or a significant sorrow, you're invited to come forward, place a stone in the water bowl, say your name, and briefly share your joy or your sorrow. Let us enter into this time of tenderness. Let us enter into this time of trust. Are there any joys and sorrows this morning?
Thanks. Hi, I'm Terry Brooks, and I had a great joy this week when I traveled with so many representatives of our church and other churches to a media rally in support of reproductive justice. And I just can't tell you how wonderful it was for me to see our church really take a leadership role and really provide the organizational and financial commitment that this effort needs. And just to underscore that, as UUs, we had 5 UU ministers there.
Good morning, I'm Jenny Warnash. I bought a car this week, and it's the first time in 23 and a half years that I have not driven a minivan. So there's a little sadness there, but actually I'm really digging this empty nest thing.
Place a final stone for those joys and sorrows that we hold in our hearts that were not spoken this morning. Won't you join with me in a time of meditation and reflection? Let us take a moment to center ourselves, to connect with our feelings, with our thoughts, with our bodies. Let us hold in mind all those in our church community and in our lives who struggle with illness, with grief, or with the struggles of living. We hold in our hearts this day those in this community reaching out, speaking out, organizing, partnering to share our values and to make a difference in our community. And amidst all of the joys and the sorrows of our own private lives, let us take a few moments of silent meditation. I invite you to be still. as it is when we are in the presence of our truest selves, so may it also be in our thoughts, our words, and our deeds. Our sung meditation this morning is a round. It's number 396. I know this rose will open. I invite you to open your hymnal and we will sing together.
Let's go ahead and sing it once together in unison, and then we'll do a two-part round, and then if it goes well, we'll do a four-part round. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will blow away. I know wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open.
The reading this morning is by Vanessa Southern. Vanessa Southern is a Unitarian Universalist minister, and this reading comes from her first collection of meditations entitled This Piece of Eden. I love this collection, and I love this one in particular. She writes, "One year while I was in graduate school, a friend who was worried about my safety gave me a personal alarm as a present. This red box fit neatly in my pocket and had a button and a pull cord, both of which would set it off in wild peals of noise. I carried the alarm with me for a few months, but fortunately, never did need it. The day I decided not to carry it any longer was the day I set it off in my coat pocket. It was a bitterly cold day in the fall, and I had spent the better part of the morning on a tour of a historic cemetery in our town. I was exhausted and didn't notice at all when I set off the alarm while reaching into my pocket for a subway token. The whole train ride, I wondered what the alarm was about. Was there a fire? Were they testing some emergency system? At each station, the sound was the same. How annoying, I thought. When I got off the train, I heard the sound in the parking lot. People were agitated and looking around, confused. When I went into the supermarket, it was the same story. Everyone looked around this way and that, staring and wondering aloud what the sound was. A couple of them asked me about it, and I looked at them innocent and ignorant and said, I don't know. And then I stopped to ask a stock boy where I might find popcorn. He looked at me, nodding his head in silence, and with hesitation, as if he were thinking something over in his head, he said, I'll tell you where to find the popcorn, but only if you tell me about that noise. Completely tired of the whole business, I said to him in exasperation that I had no idea what the noise was about, and I wondered why so many people seemed to think I might. "Because, lady," said the stock boy, "it's coming from you." Never had a face turned red as fast as mine did that moment when I realized that he was right, that this sound that had plagued me for the better part of an hour had indeed been coming from me. There in my pocket was that little red box with its black button in the on position. How many times do we walk around with alarms going off in our pockets? How often does everyone else around us realize that something having to do with us is seriously wrong, and we just mosey along, slightly agitated in our journey? I just hope the next time I walk around with a personal alarm system going off in my pocket, someone is bold enough to look me in the eye and ask me what I am doing.
Freely have we received gifts that minister to our needs of body and spirit. Gladly we bring to our church and its wide concerns a portion of this bounty. If you wish to donate online, there is a QR code on the back of the order of service, and there is information on the church's website. We will now receive the morning offering.
I took a walk in the rain one day on the wrong side of the tracks. I stood on that rail till I saw that train, just to see how my heart would react. Now some people say you shouldn't tempt fate, and for them I cannot disagree. But I never learned nothing from playing it safe. I say fate should not tempt me. I take my chances. I don't mind working without a net. I take my chances. I take my chances every chance I get. I sat alone in the dark one night, tuning in by remote. I found a preacher who spoke of the light, but there was brimstone in his throat. He showed me the way, according to him, in return for my personal check. I flipped the channel back to CNN, and I lit another cigarette, and I take my chances. I don't mind working without a net. I take my chances. I take my chances every chance I get. I've crossed lines of words and wide, and both have cut me deep. I've been frozen out and I've been on fire. The tears are mine to weep. But I can cry until I laugh, and laugh until I cry. So cut the deck right in half, and I'll play from either side, and I take my chances. I pay my dollar and I place my bet. I take my chances. I take my chances every chance I get. I take my chances. Yeah, I don't cling to remorse or regret. I take my chances. I take my chances every chance I get. I take my chances.
Maybe you can relate to this. Maybe there was someone in your field of work who you looked up to, who you admired, even idolized. They were so brilliant, so talented, so successful. And then you heard that something went sideways and they got forced out. Yikes. And maybe you thought, if that could happen to that person who was so amazing, it could happen to anyone. It could happen to me. Double yikes. And you're left thinking, I'm not as secure as I thought I was. Or I don't know, maybe there was a couple you knew who you admired, who you envied, who you even idolized. They seemed so happy, so perfect for each other, and then one day you learned that they'd separated. Yikes, them? If that could happen to them, it could happen to anyone. It could happen to me. Double yikes. You begin to question your own security, or maybe there's someone you know who did everything right financially. They saved, invested, they were a paragon of fiscal responsibility. They always made sound, sensible, prudent financial decisions until one day the unexpected happened and they lost so much. Yikes. If that could happen to them, maybe I'm more vulnerable than I think. Maybe you can relate to one of those types of stories. My message this morning is about insecurity and uncertainty. It's about coming to terms with the fact that much in this life is beyond our control. My message, more than that, is about rejecting false promises of security. And finally, my message is about how we might actually embrace existential uncertainty and at the same time move towards greater wholeness as individuals and as a society. My favorite writer on insecurity is a Unitarian Universalist minister named Forrest Church. Forrest was the minister of All Souls Unitarian Church in New York City, and he ministered there during the terrorist attacks of September 11th. And then 6 years later, he was diagnosed with terminal esophageal cancer at the age of 58. Following 9/11, he wrote a book called Freedom from Fear, which is about how to live courageously in a fearful time. And then following his diagnosis with terminal cancer, he wrote a book called Love and Death, about how to face our own mortality with courage. Forrest Church has a passage in the latter book about existential insecurity, that ultimate sense that none of us will ever have absolute control over our lives. It's sort of a flippant passage, and I was actually a little bit hesitant to share it. So I had Eric share the first part of it in the opening words, and you all laughed, so I feel safe. Thank you. That's odd. Sometimes like I'll say at the second service, nobody will laugh, and I'll be like, well, they laughed at the first service. And He writes, I'm gonna repeat it. I have a friend who's given up alcohol, cigarettes, coffee, sugar, meat, and the sun, eats oat bran for breakfast, takes megadoses of vitamin C and E, rides his exercycle religiously, and never uses his microwave oven. He may not live any longer than his most prudent neighbor, but as his doctor told him, it will certainly seem longer. Church then continues, things are getting difficult for people who devote their lives to postponing death. Almost every day, something new is added to the list of death-abetting substances and activities. The hard truth is we all die of something. Vegetarians die, joggers die, even people with low cholesterol die. One can do everything imaginable to play the right numbers, to change the variables in our human equation, and still life will not check. Astra Taylor, who I'll say more about shortly, describes existential insecurity in this way, quote, "A kind of existential insecurity is indelible to being human. It stems from being dependent on others for our survival, from being vulnerable to physical and psychological illness and wounding, and the looming fact of death. It is a kind of insecurity we can never wholly escape or armor ourselves against, try as we might." Existential insecurity. Try as we might. To be mortal is to face the awareness that some things are utterly beyond our control. I want to now turn to some different types of insecurity besides that largest kind, that existential kind. Kinds of insecurity beyond the basic fact of our mortality. Last Sunday, church member Bill Petit sent me an opinion column that had run in the New York Times last summer. Thank you, Bill. I use this article a lot in the sermon, actually. The author of the article is Astra Taylor, who I looked up and is a filmmaker, organizer, and author. And a web search also showed me, fun fact, that Astra Taylor is also the spouse of 90s indie rock star Jeff Mangum of the band Neutral Milk Hotel, which was a really great band. Are there any Neutral Milk Hotel fans in the place? Oh, look at this. All right. Hey, Paul. I actually have the next line is, maybe Paul, Scott, and Jane can work something up for a future service. If I had known that I was going to talk about Neutral Milk Hotel, I would have sent that to you. So it's a really great band, by the way. So anyways, where was I? So Bill Petit sent me this opinion piece by Astra Taylor entitled, "Why Does Everyone Feel So Insecure All the Time?" In this piece, Astra Taylor describes anxiety and insecurity as endemic within a capitalist society. Quote, "Capitalism thrives on bad feelings. Discontented people buy more stuff. It's hard to imagine any advertising or marketing department telling us that we're all actually okay as we are, and that it's the world, not us, that needs changing. Insecurity encourages us to amass money and objects as surrogates for the kind of security that cannot actually be commodified. Connection, meaning, purpose, contentment, safety, self-esteem, dignity, and respect. Our greatest security," she continues, "can only be truly found in community with others. Our greatest security can only be found in community with others." That'll preach. Astra Taylor is the founder of an organization, a movement called the Debt Collective. And this movement, I learned, attempts to unionize people who are in debt. She theorizes that if people who are burdened with financial debt, student loan debt, credit card debt, medical debt, and so forth, actually came together and found common cause, they would form a block of political power so immense that they could revolutionize society. They could demand real, substantial changes to the way our society is structured, changes that would alleviate some of the most egregious forms of economic insecurity that plague our nation. Instead, people's insecurities are often exploited. Again, I quote Astra Taylor, who writes, "Across the world, the far right has gained ground by speaking directly to isolated people's anxieties and by offering scapegoats, immigrants, Muslims, Jews, black people, trans people. There is existential insecurity that's triggered by reminders of our own mortality. There's economic insecurity that's triggered by fears of loss and amplified by feelings of shame. And then there is another kind of insecurity that I want to talk about, which is about feeling insecure about the self. In his earlier book, Freedom from Fear, Forrest Church writes about 5 types of fear: fright, worry, guilt, insecurity, and dread. And he defines insecurity as fear prompted by feelings of inadequacy. Insecurity is fear prompted by feelings of inadequacy. How many of us have ever worried about whether we are good enough, smart enough, talented enough, interesting enough, attractive enough? There are whole classes of dreams that surface our deep-seated feelings of insecurity and inadequacy. I will share with you my inadequacy dream, which I first dreamed more than 2 decades ago. The dream goes like this. I show up at church, and I find that I'm supposed to do the whole service, which I had not prepared. I stand up in the pulpit and announce the opening hymn, and when I open the hymnal, I'm pleased to discover that the first hymn is a long one. It has 4 verses. And I think to myself, I never remember my dreams, but I remember this one. And I think to myself, it's wonderful that it's 4 verses. I can write the call to worship during the first verse. I can write a prayer during the second verse. And that'll give me 2 verses to write a sermon. And I'm momentarily relieved by this plan. I momentarily feel a sense of comfort. And then I realize that the congregation is already on the second verse of the hymn, and the plan isn't working. And the dream just continues in this agonizing slow motion. The congregation gets slower and slower, closer to the end of the hymn. And I do not get any closer to having anything to say. It's like this slow motion dread. Fortunately, I've only had this dream a handful of times. I actually I asked when I saw Reverend Allison greeting this morning, I said, "Do you ever have church anxiety dreams?" Where's Allison? There in the back there. And Allison was like, "Yes, okay. Whew, I'm not alone." This dream is the clergy variation of a type of dream that's widespread and common, right? Students dreaming of showing up for a test for which they've not studied, right? Anybody have those dreams? Or teachers dream of showing up for a class unprepared to teach, or lawyers who dream of showing up in court without having prepared their case, and so on and so forth, right? It's interesting that so often our dreams surface that underlying anxiety and worries, deep-seated worries about insecurity and inadequacy. The reading this morning was a short piece called "The Wake-Up Call" by Vanessa Southern. Insecurity was not the focus of her piece when she wrote it, I'm pretty sure, but rather insecurity is the subtext of it. That the world is a scary, dangerous, threatening place. And so the author is given this personal safety alarm for her own protection. And yet, instead of providing safety, instead of providing security, the alarm becomes annoying and irritating, a hindrance. How often I wonder, do we do things in the name of security that do not actually make us any more secure, that actually make us more afraid, more anxious, more burdened? This happens at the level of the individual, that we can make personal choices in our lives in the interest of avoiding insecurity, but that actually leave us less vital in our living. And we know this happens also at the levels of societies and nations who do things in the name of security that leave us less free and, in fact, more insecure. Astra Taylor concludes her piece on economic insecurity with these words. She writes, "Rather than something to pathologize, I want us to see insecurity as an opportunity. We all need protection from life's hazards, natural or human-made. The simple acceptance of our mutual vulnerability, of the fact that we all need and deserve care throughout our lives, has potentially transformative implications. When we extend trust and support to others, we improve everyone's security, including our own." She concludes, "Recognizing our shared existential insecurity and understanding how it's currently used against us can be a first step towards forging solidarity. Solidarity, in the end, is one of the most important forms of security we can possess. The security of confronting our shared predicament as humans on this planet in crisis, together." I called my sermon this morning the myth of security. The myth of security. Because it's true in the existential sense that there are always things that will be beyond our control, try as we might, even though we wish that were not the case. And one of the truest forms, ironically, one of the truest forms of moving towards greater security is a community of vulnerability, a community of people who share and admit their insecurities. With that paradox, let us go forth courageously, boldly, and vulnerably. So may it be. Our closing hymn this morning is one called Woyaya. It is a hymn from Africa, and it is about the uncertainties of life and living boldly nonetheless. So I invite us to rise one last time in body or in spirit, and let us sing along and sing out.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going. We know within, and we'll
Please remain standing in body or spirit. The words for extinguishing the chalice are in your order of service. Please join with me in saying them if you wish to do so. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Let's thank those who contributed to making this service worth it. And please join with us in singing Shalom. The words are in your order of service. As you are comfortable, please either join hands with the person next to you or cross your arms over your heart.